This is the Shadow Realm Network, and when you think of iconic Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, Summon Skull is pretty high up there. If I had to pick one monster to represent Yu-Gi-Oh's art style, it would probably be Summon Skull.
Am I a joke to you?
What?
I just want to know, is that all I am? A big joke?
It's more creepy and disturbing than anything you would find in Pokemon, but more in the anime art style than you would find in Magic. Now, both Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic have changed their art styles throughout the years, experimenting with different things in different archetypes. But for Yu-Gi-Oh, baseline, I expect something that looks anime, but has some type of creepy or disturbing angle to it. Unless you're one of these new cat drinks, then you are perfect the way you are. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Today, I will be breaking down the absolute tragedy that is the Summon Skull archetype, highlighting each wave of support and why it completely failed the archetype as a competitive card or a fun rogue deck, and why this classic monster, although has a awesome design, failed at competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! All to answer one question: how good was Summon Skull actually? Our journey begins in June of 2002, when Summon Skull was first released in the TCG's second ever set, Metal Raiders. At the time, it was actually a pretty decent card. With 2500 attack for one tribute, Summon Skull offered pretty good offensive power compared to the other tribute monsters like Dark Magician and Red Eyes. In early formats, Summon Skull actually saw decent play as a boss monster for beatdown strategies. But ultimately, this did not last long because, as we've gone over before, vanilla monsters are not that good, especially ones that require tribute. By 2004, Summon Skull had been power crept out of the game. The reason why is because tribute summoning a vanilla monster when cards like Jinzo, Chaos Emperor Dragon, and Black Luster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, do way more for way less. Summon Skull's biggest problem is that it simply didn't do anything. No protection, no synergy, no combo potential, just a big body just sitting there. And in this point in Yu-Gi-Oh, there were big bodies that actually did other things than just stand there. In 2005, Konami reprinted Summon Skull in Darkness Beginnings 2, but with no real new support. Meanwhile, other legacy monsters like Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, and Red Eyes started to get actual tools to modernize their strategies. Even amongst anime archetypes, Summon Skull really struggled to find any type of footing. To call Summon Skull an archetype is like calling David Spade an actor. I guess you're technically right, but you're really stretching the definition. In 2007, Konami tried to bring new life to Summon Skull by labeling it a Archfiend monster, which is definitely the weirdest type of support a monster has ever been given. Instead of printing out new cards to help the archetype, they decided to retroactively make Summon Skull part of a different archetype. While this seemed promising, the Archfiend strategy never became meta relevant, and Summon Skull itself had a hard time justifying itself within the deck due to it not really synergizing with its new archetype. Nearly a decade later, after the Archfiend experiment, Konami gave Summon Skull actual dedicated support in Duelist Pack Rivals of the Pharaoh in 2016. But was it good?
You serious?
But before we go over Summon Skull's first round of real support, don't forget to subscribe. You see, I need more money to buy more Yu-Gi-Oh cards and cool statues like these ones, so it's really a win-win for the both of us. You get this awesome content, and I get these stupid pieces of cardboard. It's a perfect trade. But anyways, enough of that self-promotion BS. On with the video. New cards from Rivals of the Pharaoh included Archfiend Awakening, a ritual monster that required a Summon Skull, and in all reality wasn't that bad. It couldn't be destroyed by battle except by other ritual monsters, and if it's destroyed by card effect, it would summon another Summon Skull. So as long as the rest of these cards synergize with that, this is actually a pretty decent card. Next, we have Archfiend's Manifestation, a fusion monster that boosts all Summon Skull cards by 500 attack.
This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
And finally, we have Summon Skull of Lightning, a retrain of the original Summon Skull. Summon Skull of Lightning reads, once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 500 life points or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets this card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect if you roll a 1, 3, or 6. And if you do, destroy that card.
What the hell are you on about?
Holy shit, that might be the single worst card effect I have read on this channel so far, and I've already covered Red Eyes. Keep in mind, you still have to tribute summon this monster, meaning for one tribute summon, you get either a negate and destruction, which is pretty decent, or you get nothing and you pay 500 life points per standby phase to do nothing. Archfiend Awakening the Ritual monster is actually pretty decent, but the other two was someone at Konami just huffing all the paint they could possibly get their hands on. Okay, get in your happy place, Ross. It's fine. It's fine. Unfortunately, these cards were far too slow for the modern game. Ritual and fusion strategies were already struggling at the time, and none of these new tools address Summon Skull's biggest issue, being trash. In 2018, in Fist of the Gadgets, Summon Skull got 2 more extra deck monsters in Archfiend's Ascent, a Xyz monster that protects all Summon Skull monsters from destruction, and Archfiend's Call, a synchro monster that protected all Summon Skull monsters from targeted effects. Despite both of these cards having really good effects, Summon Skull really didn't have a easy way to get itself on board. In 2019, Summon Skull technically got its final wave of support in Legendary Duelist Immortal Destiny. Cards like Call of the Archfiend and Dark Spirit of Malice could special summon Summon Skull from the graveyard, but these cards were slow, inconsistent, and relied on Summon Skull to hit the field in the first place. Just imagine trying to play any of these cards in 2019 against Sky Striker, Salamangreat, or Thunder Dragon. You would definitely be laughed out of the room. Now, this would be the end, but technically we have one more card to go over, but it's in a different archetype, and no, it's not Red Eyes. In 2024, in Battle Legend Eternal Revenge set, we received one more Summon Skull, but it was meant to be support for Yugi's Gold Sart deck that represents Yugi's deck at the end of Duel Monsters, and this card was called Archfiend's Advent. Archfiend's Advent reads, while you control Shining Sarcophagus, you can normal summon this monster without tribute summoning. Other monsters you control gain 500 attack points during your turn only. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target one monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase. But that monster cannot attack unless you control Shining Sarcophagus when this effect was activated. You can only use this effect of Archfiend's Advent once per turn. Even though this is a pretty decent effect in a deck that actually functions compared to the regular Summon Skull archetype, is yet to see actual competitive play. But how good was Summon Skull actually? Well, to put it simply, they're awful, terrible, barely functional, and honestly might be the worst archetype I have covered yet. The problem is Summon Skull doesn't really have a easy way to get itself on field, so all these extra deck monsters that are actually pretty decent can't really be used because you can't get Summon Skull out. It's almost like Konami doesn't want this to be an actual archetype and wants to make it a staple, but chicken out at the last minute and add Summon Skull to its effect. And honestly, if Konami wanted to make a Summon Skull card that was generic and could be a decent staple, that would be way more interesting than this half effort into an archetype that really is not going anywhere. Just imagine if they made Summon Skull a reverse bestial. That would actually be interesting and worth playing in certain metas. But regardless, that's all I have for you guys today. But before you go, don't forget to check out my friends and today's sponsor, Hollow Games. No matter if you're a collector, competitor, or you just like trading cards, Hollow Games has you covered. Go check them out on TCG Player. And I really enjoyed this video. Hope you did too. And I'll see you guys next time.